Fang Yuan, the fearsome demon lord who has been terrorizing the world, finds himself surrounded by his enemies at last. Facing certain death, he is left with only one option: to use his beloved Chun Chi Yu Sokeda Gu, which has the power to travel back in time. And so he unleashes his Gu, sending himself 500 years into the past, where his story began. But wait, it turns out he has forgotten something crucial. In the past, he was originally teleported there from another world. Now armed with knowledge from both the future and another world, he once again aims to walk the path of the demon and become the strongest demon lord to rule the world. The story begins with Fang Yuan, a white-haired man revered as the demon lord, who is surrounded by an army of soldiers. Revealing he has killed an uncountable number of people just to cultivate his secret art, Chun Chi Yu Sokeda. They all thirst for revenge, vowing to get rid of his evil. However, isn't what they are doing considered evil? Fang Yuan walks forth, questioning, "Aren't you all here to kill someone under the name of justice, just so you can snatch away my treasure?" Nevertheless, he begins basking in the sunset, as if coming to terms with his end. All of a sudden, he throws his beloved Gu, the Chun Chi Yu Sokeda, towards the soldiers, revealing it has the power to reverse time. Apparently, he won't need it since he is going to die anyway. And upon seeing the Sokeda, the soldiers, overwhelmed by greed, pounce at it. Alas, this is all a part of Fang Yuan's plan. Out of nowhere, it explodes, creating a commotion among the enemy ranks. How did they fall for that? That's the oldest trick in the book. Using this as his opportunity, Fang Yuan begins harnessing the power of his cultivated arts, proclaiming he had already foreseen this end coming. If his hard work proves to be effective, he vows to step on the demon's path in his next life as well. Of course, the soldiers try to stop his antics, but in the blink of an eye, an explosion occurs, and as the dust settles, there is no sight of the demon lord. There, it is explained that if the rumors of the Sokeda are true, then very soon, this wicked demon will return to devastate the world again. This brings us to 500 years in the past. Inside an elegant temple, clan leader Gu Yue, along with others of the clan, is seen praying for the fruitfulness of their sect, wishing the gods bless them with new young talents and hope. As the rituals end and the people return back home, the elders head to a secluded place to discuss things further. Apparently, tomorrow is their annual awakening ceremony, and although the neighboring Bai and Xiao villages have had many outstanding talents in the last few years, the Gu Yue clan has failed to do the same. Have to train the children harder, I guess. Among them, Bai Mingbing, a warrior from the Bai village, is especially fraught. His aptitude has allowed him to become a rank 3 Gu master in just 2 years, and now even some of the older generations feel pressured by him. Nonetheless, this year will be different. This year they have some good newcomers, so it's not like they have no hope. Moreover, there has been news of a young genius that has appeared in their clan. According to the rumors, he was able to speak in 3 months, recite poetry at 5, and still harbors great ambitions. Hearing all this, Gu Yue reveals he has heard of this boy before. In fact, he even heard some of this child's poems before. As per him, such gifted children usually have good aptitude. However, as it turns out, both his parents have passed away, and he is currently under the care of his aunt and uncle. He hopes they can nurture the boy properly so that he can become a great weapon for them in the future, vowing if he shows grade A potential, he will become our clan's new banner of hope. Regardless, the clan leader then dismisses everyone, telling them all to rest to get prepared for the big day tomorrow. In addition, he reminds them that they can compete with each other all they want. However, they have to do it fair and square. Any underhanded methods will damage the clan's credibility and hence are strictly forbidden. With this, he heads back to his private quarters where he gazes at the unruly rainstorm, commenting on how even the heavens cannot seem to lay rest. Also, why does he have no furniture in his room? Like, dude, at least get a bed or something. On the other hand, at that moment, our old friend, the demon lord Fang Yuan, reawakens inside the body of this supposed child prodigy. He has been sent back 500 years in time. Fang Yuan, now that's a plot twist if I've ever seen one. Seeing that his Sokeda actually worked, Fang Yuan is more than ecstatic. In his mind, it hadn't been long since he started to cultivate the Chun Chi Yu Sokeda, and thus, he didn't think it would work. However, it has. He has overcome time itself and announces that as long as I want to keep walking forward, there will always be a path in front of me. Well, he has to start from scratch again, but who cares? He vows to endure all the hardships once more. No matter how difficult and perilous, claiming he shall once again walk the path of evil. Even through death, there is no regret. As per the legend, there exists a river of time in this world, a river that supports the flow and circulation of this universe. What's more, one can use the power of the Chun-Chi Sokata in order to go against the time flow of this world, the power to be reborn. However, that is all this is, a legend, and no one knows if this is actually true. Regardless, soon after his reawakening, Fang Yuan unlocks pieces of his memories. There, he recalls the scene of the death of his parents. At the young age of 3, Fang Yuan and his younger brother lost their parents for the good of the clan. Lucky for them, their uncle and aunt had a big heart and decided to bring them under their care. But was it really? These scummy adults, under the guise of discipline, treated these children like dirt, barely giving them enough to eat and even resorting to regular beatings. What's more, they seem to enjoy inflicting pain on these young boys. Soon enough, Fang Yuan has had enough of this treatment. Frustrated by his powerlessness, he decides that if he wants to make the life of him and his brother easier, he needs to make his guardian see him in a different light. And to do so, he will have to expose some of his worldly knowledge. However, this leaves the demon lord Fang Yuan stunned. It looks like he has long forgotten his past and is left perplexed at what that might mean. Since then, the young Fang Yuan began delving into his studies, reciting poems to the masses and garnering attention from the others. But something isn't right, at least to the demon lord Fang Yuan. Regardless, this continues. Slowly but surely, the aunt and uncle begin noticing this child's genius and begin showering him with affection, claiming that he might even have first-class aptitude and might become someone great in the future. But why are you guys so happy? Sorry to burst your bubble, but the first thing this child is going to do is put you both in a nursing home. There, it is revealed that these poems the young child was reciting weren't written by him. They were merely copied ancient poems that have been long forgotten. However, due to showcasing his talents, he began sensing jealousy from his younger twin brother. Nonetheless, all Fang Yuan could do was keep a cold, indifferent face in order to hide his secret. The truth is that Fang Yuan, who grew up to become a demon lord, was in fact originally from another world. At that moment, Fang Yuan finally remembers everything that has happened to him so far. He was just a normal human scholar in his original world, and through a lucky opportunity, stumbled onto this world. Upon his arrival, he endured several hardships for 300 years. But that is not all. After getting tired of this life, he wandered this new land another 200 years, and before he knew it, it had been 500 years since his arrival in this world. However, he had already long forgotten the reason he came to this place with the passage of time. Bro's literally been alive for half a millennia. Nonetheless, he now remembers everything. The genius revered by everyone has merely an intelligent, mature soul who knows a bunch of old poems. Back in the present, the newly reawakened Fang Yuan begins planning out his next plan. Even though the legend of the Sokata turned out to be true, he has now lost this Gu since it didn't get reborn with him. But that isn't really a problem. If I can cultivate one in my past life, then I can also cultivate one for this life, he proclaims. In addition, he now has his memories of his time as a demon as well as another world. Using both of them, he can rise to the peak yet again, claiming that his future is sure to be promising. And they say humbleness is dead. Surely they haven't heard of our boy. All of a sudden, the door to his room opens and his brother timidly walks in. Seeing him, Fang Yuan instantly makes a condescending expression and asks why he, Fang Zheng, is here. As such, his brother claims that he just heard some noise coming from Fang Yuan's room. This made him think that maybe he forgot to close his windows properly and he decided to come over and close it. Apparently, Fang Yuan is the village's hope, the genius in the eyes of everyone, and he doesn't want his brother to get sick, especially since tomorrow is the awakening ceremony. But Fang Yuan, keeping up his cold demeanor, announces this is unnecessary, ordering Fang Zheng to get out. Hearing this, Fang Zheng is left feeling humiliated and timidly leaves. With this, Fang Yuan jumps on his bed. There, he reveals that he is no genius. The truth is, he is only a third-class talent at best. And, in reality, the real first-class talent is his younger brother. It sure doesn't look like it, but if you say so. And so, the sun rises yet again, bringing the fateful day to a start. Inside his room, Fang Yuan is taking in the morning breeze when a young female servant arrives with some water for her young master. After he washes up, she helps him get ready for the big day today. All the while, she talks passionately about Fang Yuan, commenting on how everyone is sure he will awaken a first-class talent at this ceremony. Not only that, she also talks about how all the girls are talking about him, gossiping about how lucky the woman who marries him would be. Even as his servant, she feels very lucky and many others are envious of her. On the other hand, Fang Yuan is completely indifferent. He explains that this young servant is Shun Cure, his uncle and aunt's watchful eye. As per him, Shun Cure's mother raised her with the utmost care, making sure she knew how to seduce and captivate men. Because of this, in his former life, Fang Yuan actually ended up falling in love with her for real. However, when it was discovered he was just a third-class talent, she quickly turned hostile and immediately left his side. As Shun Cure helps Fang Yuan get dressed, the younger, more pitiful brother Fang Zheng is watching them from afar. Nevertheless, Shun Cure begins making moves on Fang Yuan, announcing that she couldn't ask for more and that she is satisfied with just serving him forever. However, like the absolute Chad he is, Fang Yuan simply replies that there is no need for this and tells her she's free to leave. Damn, bro just shut her down in an instant. Hearing this, Shun Cure is left annoyed that her plan isn't working, but still, she backs off. With this, Fang Yuan exits his room and prepares to head out to the awakening ceremony along with Fang Zheng, who has a troubled expression on his face. Consequently, the twins leave and arrive at the ceremony, where the crowd immediately notices their arrival. Everyone seems to be awaiting these brothers' results, especially Fang Yuan. The bystanders also comment on how, just like the rumor, Fang Yuan looks to be indifferent to all this attention. On the other hand, they talk crap about Fang Zheng, calling him nothing but useless trash. There, Fang Yuan comments on how typical this is. As per him, it is always the people who have talent that incur jealousy and hate from others. Wow, way to toot your own horn. Narcissist much? That is also why, at least to him, it is natural that everyone turned against him the moment it was revealed he is a third-class talent. What's more, in order to instigate a rift between the twins, their uncle and aunt even gave Fang Yuan preferential treatment for everything. Even today, Fang Yuan was paired with a beautiful caretaker, a Kate is Shun Cure, whereas Fang Zheng was given a fat old nanny. In his previous life, Fang Yuan was too inexperienced and his brother was naive. Because of this, their guardians were able to create hatred between them. But now, things are not the same. He is no longer as inexperienced as he used to be, and in this life, he vows to completely suppress Fang Zheng. What's more, he plans on keeping his aunt, uncle, Shun Cure, and even the Gu clan leader under his control. As long as he wants to, he can easily manipulate all of them using demonic methods and play with the entire village as if they were livestock. However, they aren't worthy of such. Apparently, in the grand scheme of things, they're all just side characters, and plotting against them is just a waste of Fang Yuan's time. This guy thinks he's Gojo Satoru or something. Nevertheless, although this is the case, if anyone gets in his way, he will not let them off. Anyways, this brings us to the ceremony ground, where the clan leader Gu Yue welcomes all the newcomers. Deciding to skip the boring part, he orders them all to follow him and takes them into an underground cave. There, he reveals that, hundreds of years ago, their clan migrated from the Middle Plains to the southern border in order to settle down at Qingmao Mountain. And all of this was because they found this spirit spring inside this underground cave. As it turns out, this spirit spring is capable of producing large numbers of stones which are fundamental for the warriors to raise their cultivation. So much so, in fact, that this spirit spring can be said to make up the entire foundation of the Gu Yue clan. In particular, Gu masters need these stones the most, and the leader reminds the children that no matter where you go, having resources is the most important priority. Exactly what our childhood hero Bear Grylls taught us. And just like that, the group finally reaches their destination and sees a sea of moon orchid flowers. All the while, Fang Yuan is raring to go. Ah, we are finally here. The starting point for cultivation, he proclaims. According to the clan leader, these moon orchids are food for most types of Gu, and this sea of flowers is their clan's prized possession, their biggest cultivation medium. As the newcomers become infatuated by the beauty of this underground cave, an old man appears, signaling they can finally start the ceremony. And so, things begin soon after. The elders will call out the participants one by one, and the competitors will have to walk as far as they can into the riverbank. Apparently, the further they can walk, the better the result. Up first is a scrawny-looking boy, who enthusiastically walks into the riverbank. However, as soon as he takes his first step, he feels a strong pressure, as if he is being crushed by a wall. Under this immense burden, he is left unable to move, but all of a sudden, the pressure begins to lighten up. Although barely, the child manages to hold out, and with this, he now has to take another step. Despite the heavy toll, he pushes to walk further, wanting to become a Gu master. He desperately wishes to not spend his entire life as a lowly servant, and hence, even if it is the lowest tier, he wants to become a Gu master. With tears in his eyes, he gives it his all, but alas, he is not the chosen one. After only 3 steps, he collapses to the ground, and the elders deem him as someone with no talent. As a result, the kid is brought back and the next participant is sent out. These guys are brutal. At least comfort the kid, I bet you old meanies. Not long after, Gu Yue, a competent-looking young boy, is called out and he begins his treacherous walk. But unlike the first child, he manages to walk significantly further. As the kids and the elders all watch in anticipation, Mobe continues walking, ultimately stopping after a whopping 36 steps. Seeing this, all the children erupt into cheers. Moreover, as it turns out, there is rivalry between the clan elders and Mo-chun. Mobe's grandfather boasts of his grandchild's talent to the others. Regardless, now having received the title of second-class talent, Mobe is ordered by the leader to come closer so he can take a look at Mobe's primeval sea, revealing that Mobe has a lot of potential and can be trained vigorously. Now, I know you might be confused as to what is going on, and so am I. Thankfully, it is explained that one's talent can be categorized into 4 classes. People who walk less than 10 steps are considered to have no talent, whereas people who walk 10 to 20 steps are deemed to be 4th-class talents. Similarly, this trend continues for the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st classes. It is also revealed that 2nd-class talents usually end up as the clan elders, and although rarely, when a 1st-class talent appears, he can even aim for the clan leader position. After 10 years of cultivation, 1st-class talents can become rank 4 Gu masters, but the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows. The dark truth is that out of every 10 people, 5 have no talent at all. Maybe the no-talent people should form a union and go on a strike or something. Most of them would just be grateful even if they get 4th-class talent. Nevertheless, the ceremony continues, but the results aren't what the elders wanted. There hasn't been a single 1st-class talent yet, and instead, most of the participants have absolutely no talent. In their eyes, the Gu Yue clan's younger generation is getting weaker and weaker. But that is to be expected. In recent years, there has been no new rank 4 Gu masters to strengthen the clan, so this kind of result is to be expected. As it turns out, the previous clan master was a rank 4 Gu master. However, he unfortunately met his end at an early age and was unable to leave behind any descendants. And it is all thanks to that damnable flower wine monk, who the elders condemn while overseeing the ceremony. On the other hand, Fan Yuan eavesdrops on their conversation. All of a sudden, a boy named Chi-chung is called forth. This boy happens to be the grandson of the elder Chi Li-an, who couldn't be more nervous while watching his grandson perform. But, by the look of it, his worries were not needed. Just like Mobe, Chi-chung walks 36 steps, making Chi Li-an delighted to no end. He begins taunting Mo-chun, and the two of them begin bickering back and forth. All the while, Fan Yuan remembers something. As per him, Chi-chung has cheated. Previously, his lie was caught and it resulted in him getting heavily punished. Apparently, Chi-chung is only a 3rd-class talent and his grandfather helped him fake the result. And what could have been Chi Li-an's motive, you might ask? Well, it is the rivalry between him and Mo-chun. These two have always opposed each other despite being the biggest forces in the clan. In order to suppress his competition, Chi Li-an needed his grandson to have a good result and hence, he helped him out behind the scenes. In addition, their secret was only outed due to that accident, making Fan Yuan curious if he should use this knowledge to his advantage. Nevertheless, it is now his turn. The clan leader calls out his name and Fan Yuan walks out with a cocky yet indifferent expression on his face. As he gets closer to the flower's sea, all the children watch on the edge of their seats in anticipation of his performance. Even the clan leader is excited to see what he has got, commenting on how he is the one most likely to receive a 1st-class talent. Nevertheless, Fan Yuan walks in fearlessly, proclaiming now things are getting interesting. With this, he begins his treacherous walk and almost immediately, he buckles under the pressure. There, he reveals that this overwhelming pressure in the flower sea originates from the spirit spring, which is overflowed with chi and causes this immense burden on the students. As per him, when one can no longer endure this chi pressure, some who would appear in these Gu are known as the Hope Gu. That's awfully convenient, isn't it? All of a sudden, a bunch of shiny dots appear all around Fan Yuan, and he claims each and every one of these light dots is a Hope Gu. Moreover, these Hope Gu come from one of the oldest legends, the legend of Runzu. In the legend, the newly formed world is home to savage wilderness. There, the first human appeared and was named Runzu. To survive, Runzu had to feast on raw flesh and blood. Not only that, there was also a group of beasts called Kujin that longed to eat him. One day, these beasts managed to corner Runzu, and as he braced for his approaching end, all of a sudden, something appeared in the sky. They were the three goose who claimed they were here to answer Runzu's prayer. Are you sure it wasn't just hallucinating or something? From today onwards, as long as you offer us your life, we can help you survive any hardship, they announced. Of course, it's not like he had any alternatives, so Runzu ultimately agreed, offering the biggest Gu his youth. And so, the biggest Gu takes away Runzu's youth, granting him immense strength and energy in exchange. It also gave him a chiseled body, but I'm not complaining. With this new strength, Runzu started to change life for the better. He fought and killed many Kujin ruthlessly, however. Soon, he realized power alone cannot resolve everything. He needed to recover and cultivate so as not to waste his life away. Not to mention the fact he alone was barely enough for a big horde of Kujin. As a result, after reflecting on this bitterly, he decides to give his prime middle years to the second biggest Gu, and it grants him wisdom. Alas, good times never last. Runzu eventually grew older. His health worsened and his strength was no longer able to keep him afloat. One day, while escaping a group of Kujin, he is left unable to do anything. At that moment, even his two Gus forsaken him, leaving him to die. As the old Runzu wriggled on the floor, the Kujin caught up to him. This time, he was surely going to die, although he desperately didn't want to. All of a sudden, he noticed the smallest Gu was still there. The smallest Gu offered the human help if he offered it himself. Hearing this, Runzu begins chuckling, reminding the Gu he has nothing left to offer. If he gives his old age to the smallest Gu, it will be useless. As for offering his life and youth, he tells it to just run away. But, in response, the smallest Gu announces, "Oh human, you just have to give me your heart, that would suffice." As such, Runzu finally agrees. But still, what can the smallest Gu even offer him in exchange? As of now, he is officially screwed, and even if the power and wisdom Gu come back, he still wouldn't be able to do much. But as it turns out, Runzu underestimated the smallest Gu. Suddenly, the Gu begins rising brightly, and seeing it, the Kujin flee in fear of the Hope Gu. And ever since that day, Runzu learned that when you are facing a predicament, you just have to give your heart to hope. What was the author on while writing this stuff? And can I have some? Back in the present, Fang Yuan is still in the middle of his test and has managed to take 20 steps. Nevertheless, he is visibly at his limit and is on the verge of collapse. As he takes the test, the clan elders and leaders are not too happy with what they see. According to them, there isn't enough Hope Gu surrounding Fang Yuan, and this is definitely not a sign of a first-class talent. Back on the field, Fang Yuan is almost on his knees, barely breathing, yet he continues to push forward. In order to become a first-class talent, one needs to take 40 to 50 steps. However, he has only walked 23 steps. Despite this, he keeps up the valiant effort and takes a couple more steps. All of a sudden, as soon as he takes the 27th step, a bright ball of light begins glowing from inside him, leaving him in a state of delight. "My awakening is a success," he announces. "There's hope for me to become an immortal now. Now I know you must all be pretty lost, and so am I, luckily." It is revealed that awakening is a rather strange and mysterious process. It occurs inside one's body, but not really. At the same time, it does not use the same space as one's internal organs. And it is said this awakening occurs in a different space that is endlessly huge yet infinitely small. Some people even call it the purple space, while others refer to it as indigenous. Nonetheless, by far most people know it as the primeval seas. As it turns out, in this process, the Hope Gu will burst and emit a layer of glowing light that surrounds one's body. This layer supports the awakening space, preventing it from collapsing. And inside this, the awakening space is the green primordial sea. Only Gu masters are able to form this sea within themselves, and this essence within it is used by them to raise their Gu. All in all, this only means one thing for Fang Yuan. From today onwards, I am back on the path of becoming a Gu master. Thank God this explanation is over with. I thought I would lose my last remaining brain cell. Regardless, just like in his last life, this is the final step he can take. Seeing him unable to continue, the clan leader calls out to him, asking if he will go further. But hearing this, Fang Yuan turns back with a smug look on his face and begins making his way back, leaving everyone watching in shock. None of them could have imagined that Fang Yuan, the child prodigy revered as a genius, was only able to get a third-class talent, especially Fang Zheng, who is left utterly speechless. On the other hand, the clan leader and elders are pretty disappointed. They for sure thought this child was going to become the first-class talent of this generation. So much so, in fact, the elders even begin to gossip, wondering if the result could maybe be wrong. The reality is that Fang Yuan has displayed the characteristics of a genius, and this low result might be because of an error. However, the method for testing is accurate beyond reason. Moreover, all the elders were watching his every move, and hence, cheating would have been nearly impossible. Didn't stop that elder Qi Lian from doing it though. Amidst all the chatter, the clan leader speaks up, claiming that the characteristics of a genius do not guarantee that one would be a first-class talent, despite it revealing the quality of their primordial seed. Everything is based on the result of this test at last. And so, they begin their grief, commenting on how their clan has fallen and how they are no longer like the first generation. Nonetheless, Fang Yuan returns back to the ridicule and mocking from the other students. As he hears all these insults, he remains the same as usual, indifferent. There, he rewatches his reaction to this revelation in his past life. Upon learning he was but a third-class talent, he broke down into tears of desperation and despair. In the past, he thought highly of himself and even proclaimed his talent should have surpassed even the heavens. However, with this disastrous result, he thought he would no longer be able to protect his little brother. He cursed at the gods and at his fellow clan members, calling them all cruel and heartless. In addition, he vowed to stop caring about what others thought of him going forward. Recalling all this, Fang Yuan in the current timeline is adamant about his vow from back then. To him, all the others are just bystanders and insignificant passersby who will soon be dispersed into the air like dust. Hearing his future self say this, the old Fang Yuan warns him, announcing he is following the devil's path. But, like the Chad he is, Fang Yuan couldn't care less. With a grin on his face, he proclaims that he is merely a fish swimming in the vast river of time. However, he will be the fish who swims against the flow. With this, he bids farewell to his former life. Meanwhile, the test still goes on. Eventually, it comes time for Fang Zheng to perform. Hearing his name called, Zheng timidly walks out, but stumbles and ends up falling into the lake. Seeing this, all the participants laugh at him, and even the clan leader is left annoyed by just how little the Fang twins amount to. All the while, Fang Zheng is left embarrassed and ashamed, but all of a sudden, his elder brother comes to his side. Grabbing hold of Zheng's collar, Yuan leans closer to him, telling him to go ahead. Our future path will be an interesting one, he claims, big words coming from a third-class talent. Hearing these words said to him by his cold, distant older brother, Fang Zheng is left perplexed. As Fang Yuan walks back toward the crowd, Zheng wonders just how on earth his brother is able to stay so calm, even in this situation. Even though Fang Yuan just got a third-class talent, he still has his usual, indifferent demeanor. To Zheng, he could never keep it up. Suddenly, just then, it dawns on him. The truth is, his supposed prodigy twin is only a third-class talent. But if so, then what does that make him? The one who was already considered useless. Little does he know what fate has in store for him. With a heavy heart, Zheng steps into the flower sea, thinking back about old times. He recalls how, in his entire life, it's been cast behind his brother's shadow. Everyone always sang praises for the boy genius Yuan. But, on the other hand, Zheng was treated like useless trash who couldn't even do the most basic tasks. Everyone knows Fang Yuan has always been the apple of their guardian's eye. It's natural since he was considered to be the hope of the clan. But where did that leave Zheng? He went unnoticed, unloved, just like a pebble on the side of the road. No one even knew his name. He was merely Fang Yuan's younger brother. But despite all this unfairness, there was one thing he did have. Although Yuan kept a cold attitude, Zheng knew he was always looking out for him. Slowly, he came to the realization that it doesn't matter that he is an ordinary person. A genius is just built differently, and since he cannot be like him, he won't try to be. However, all of that began changing when, one day, their uncle gave Yuan a new, young personal servant, a girl named Gu Yue. And for Zheng, it was love at first sight. Of course, he still didn't have a caretaker because he was getting shunned for being kind of dumb. But he became infatuated with Gu Yue's beauty. Later on, he overhears his uncle and aunt discussing how they should treat Fang Yuan way better since he is the future. They even talk about how they should disown Zheng after the ceremony. Hearing this, something inside of him snaps. He questions why. Even though they got over being treated differently, why do they want to take away his right to live a normal life? Why won't you give me a chance to live like a normal person? He questions. Rage slowly begins creeping inside of him as he thinks about why it is so wrong to be ordinary. Nevertheless, he ultimately comes to the conclusion that this is all because of his brother. If he didn't exist, then there would be no comparison, and he wouldn't have to suffer like this. Moreover, if he didn't exist, Gu Yue would only call out his name. One day, he sits down with Gu Yue, and they chat about things. There, he asks why she treats him so well, especially considering everyone else just blatantly insults and mocks him. In response, she claims that Yuan's personality is too cold. Despite his future prospects, she prefers warm and gentle people like Zheng. Also, as per her, both of them are just pitiful people being toyed with by fate. This brings us to the morning of the ceremony. That morning, Zheng immediately saw something he couldn't unsee. The love of his life, Gu Yue, was pressed onto his brother, telling him just how satisfied she would be to serve him forever. Seeing and hearing all of this, the illusionary world Fang Zheng had created in his mind shatters. Enraged, he questions why the gods give him false hope just to send him deeper down into the pit of despair. To him, after the ceremony, he will be cast into an endless abyss from which he will not be able to climb out of. He too wants to be respected by others and be cared for. He doesn't want to be alone anymore. I want to change everything, he announces. In the present, while all these thoughts rush through his head, Fang Zheng manages to take a whopping 43 steps and become a first-class talent. This result leaves everyone surprised to no end. The students begin to gossip amongst themselves, whereas the elders argue over who should raise and train Zheng. Ultimately, using his authority, the clan leader decides he will watch over him. One of the perks of being the boss, you know. Meanwhile, Fang Zheng is just speechless, grateful the gods have answered his prayers. From now on, he vows to change everything and show everyone who the real genius is. He will no longer stay behind his brother's shadow and become his own person. Bro got main character syndrome literally seconds after getting a good score. Narcissist alert. And so, a week passes by after the ceremony, and the clan leader is seen teaching a group of young students. There, he teaches them about their new lives. As per him, humans are above all other creatures, and Gu is a gift for them from the heavens. In this world, there are thousands of different types of goose, each of them coming in various shapes and forms. Moreover, they can be found virtually everywhere in the soil, in the grass, and even inside the body of beasts. They are considered to be the very essence of all living things, and as humans continue to grow, they can start uncovering more mysteries of it. Humans who cultivate their new knowledge to refine and control these Gu are called Gu Masters. Therefore, these children who have just awakened 7 days ago are now rank 1 Gu Masters and can now use their primeval C. All of a sudden, Gu Yue Mo Bei, the cocky kid from earlier, raises his hand and asks if the clan leader can explain the differences between the different ranks of masters in detail. As such, the leader reveals that there are 9 total ranks, each of which is split into 4 stages from beginner to peak. As of right now, these students are beginner rank 1 masters. However, they can train and cultivate diligently to increase their levels. Nevertheless, their talent class plays a huge role in this process. No matter what, the 4th class talent can only fill his primordial C up to 20 to 30%, and hence, they can only attain the rank 2 Gu Master title at best. Similarly, 3rd class talents will only reach rank 3, and 2nd class talents will reach rank 4. Only 1st class talents, who can fill their primordial C up to 80 to 90%, can reach the esteemed rank 5 Gu Masters. Hearing this, all the children are left infatuated but ask about the higher ranks. Alas, Yue clan leader is not too sure about those details. Anything after the 6th rank is said to be legends, and they have never had a rank 6 master in the Gu Yue clan, despite having fearsome 5 and 4 rank masters. This explanation leaves everyone in awe, and they realize why Fang Zheng is so important and why the clan leader wants to train him personally. All the while, Fang Zheng is sitting in class diligently, paying the utmost attention. On the other hand, his so-called prodigy big brother is sleeping in class for the 7th day straight. What's more, as per the rumors, he has been loitering around the city late at night as well, drunken and wasted out of his mind. But who can blame him? Until just a week ago, he was considered to be the hope of the clan, but he has now been kicked off his high horse. Even the clan leader has lost faith in him, announcing, "I was mistaken about him back then." How could this kind of person be a genius? Regardless, Yuan is now but a 3rd class talent who is pretty much useless. Fostering him would only be a waste of the clan's resources. As such, the leader begins talking about the two rank 5 masters they had in the past, the first generation leader and the fourth generation leader. In addition, the latter was said to have remarkable talent, so much so in fact he attained the peak rank 5 title and might have even reached the rank 6 stage. Also, all because of the demon flower wine monk making a sneak attack, the fourth generation unfortunately lost his life. Because of this, the Gu Yue clan harbors great hatred towards that flower wine monk. There, Fang Yuan, who is apparently awake this time, begins recalling how the fight between the fourth generation leader and the flower wine monk is a classic story in their village. As it turns out, the flower wine monk was a rank 5 Gu master as well, highly revered in his demon clan. One day, he came to Qingmao Mountain to commit crimes. However, he was caught and exposed by the Gu Yue clan leader. As such, the two of them had a fearsome battle, resulting in the flower wine monk getting brutally beaten. In fact, he was forced to grovel on his knees for forgiveness. Seeing this, the Gu Yue clan leader decided to be merciful and spared his life. But all of a sudden, the flower wine monk launched a sneak attack, inflicting fatal wounds on his foe. In response, the leader went into a fit of rage and killed the wine monk. Nevertheless, he too lost his life because of the wounds. Recalling all of this, Fang Yuan awakens from his supposed slumber, but he still has some questions. How did the fourth generation leader die? And where is his corpse? In order to find out the answer, he once again referred back to his memories. In the past, about 2 months from now, there was a Gu master who got his heart broken and began drinking in the mountains. Sounds like my kind of guy. Due to his wine aroma, liquor worms began getting attracted towards him and wanting to catch them. This master tried chasing after them. Nevertheless, the worms fled quickly, and chasing after them, the master discovered an underground hole entrance. According to Fang Yuan, these liquor worms are an expensive type of Gu, and hence, the master decided to risk his life and venture down into the underground cave. And his bravery was rewarded. There he found the corpse of the flower wine monk as well as all the inheritance he had left behind. Finding such treasure, the master headed back to his town and reported his findings, causing a huge stir in the whole clan. Consequently, he benefited a lot from his find, and his cultivation soared to the sky. Even his ex-lover decided to reconcile with him, and he became the talk of the town. And that, my friends, is what one might call a gold digger. Sadly, Fang Yuan only heard bits and pieces of this story, and hence is not sure about the location of the corpse. As a result, he has been buying and getting drunk in the mountain lake at night, but to no avail. In his mind, the Gu worms are a much better source of Gu than their clan's weak moonlight Gu, and it would vastly fast-forward his cultivation. Nonetheless, the class continues. The clan leader teaches the students all about primeval stones, claiming them to be essence of the heavens and earth. Though it isn't worth a lot of money, they can help a Gu master with their cultivation. Masters are able to extract chi from these spiritual stones and replenish their primeval seas. And if one has enough of these stones, they can even increase their cultivation by leaps and bounds. In layman's terms, this is like steroids for the weaker Gu masters, helping them cover up their shortcomings. With this, the class comes to an end. The clan leader has taught the students all about the primeval sea and how to use their Gu. Therefore, they will now get to pick a Gu worm after class and are tasked to go home and refine it. Moreover, they are only allowed back once they have succeeded in doing so. In addition, to motivate the newbies, the clan leader even puts a reward of 20 spiritual stones for the two who are able to complete this assignment first. Suddenly, a boy raises his hand, questioning what will happen if a Gu master uses a Gu above their rank. To this, the teacher states that generally speaking, rank 1 Gu masters can only use rank 1 Gu. Moreover, he adds that if one tries to use a higher level Gu, one must pay a heavy price for it. Not only that, the master will have to feed his Gu as well, which lower level Gu masters will not be able to do. Thus, new masters choose a rank 1 Gu as their first Gu and refine it unless they have a special circumstance. This first Gu of theirs will also become their vital Gu. As per him, the vital Gu is interconnected with the master's life, meaning if the vital Gu dies, the master will also suffer a heavy toll. As such, the newbies must protect their vital Gu at all costs. With this, the students all head to the training grounds, where they enter a storeroom. There, all the kids look to be extremely happy upon getting their first Gu, and they all line up in anticipation. Eventually, it comes time for Fang Yuan to pick out one. As he stands inside the room filled to the brim with different types of Gu, Fang Yuan is left unimpressed. All he sees are rank 1 Gu, and, as per him, he planned to get his hands on the flower wine monk's worm as his vital gu. Of course, he's been unable to locate it as of yet, and, to be on the safe side, he picks Moonlight Gu for now. This type of gu is the most popular one in the clan, and most people choose them as their vital gu. He also explains that these are not natural-born goose, rather, they are manufactured by the clan through a secret technique. They cannot be found anywhere else, and hence, they are thought to be the symbol of the Gu family clan. Nonetheless, though it may be special to the clan, the liquor worm is much more useful to a Gu master. With this, he takes his leave and heads to the nearest liquor store. Now you're talking my language. Bring out the sake. There, he buys 2 jugs of the wine. Seeing Fang Yuan again, the shopkeeper is happy and hands over the wine to him, revealing he has come by every day to buy some wine. Anyway, after getting the liquor, Yuan leaves, stating that he will have no spiritual stones to get some wine tomorrow, but still, the worm refuses to show itself, and the clan leader said the stones weren't worth much. At least they can get you drunk. This leaves him with only one choice: refine the Moonlight Gu and get his hands on the reward. However, that won't be easy. Refining a gu is a test of one's talent, and he, a third-class talent, will have no chance of winning if he doesn't use any special methods, leaving him in a pickle. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, and upon turning back, he finds his younger brother Fang Zheng there. Zheng, with a confident look on his face, tells Yuan to come with him. He claims the family is worried about him and tells him to stop this senseless drinking. But Yuan remains indifferent, with the usual dead eyes. Seeing this, Zheng's newfound courage begins to shatter, but he soon regains control over himself. What's wrong? He wonders. Why can't I muster up the courage to face him? Of course, Zheng has changed from his former self, but is that really the case? As all these thoughts rush his head, he begins grinding his teeth in frustration. Sure that he is the genius in the family, he decides to once and for all confront his big brother. But as he looks up to do so, he finds Fang Yuan nowhere in sight. In the short span of time it took for Zheng to collect his thoughts, he had already snuck up behind, telling his younger brother to hurry up. With this, both brothers head back to their aunt and uncle's house. There, the aunt expresses how happy she is that her 2 nephews have grown up to become Gu hamsters, especially Fang Zheng. As a present, she has prepared 6 spiritual stones for both of them, and upon receiving this gift, Zheng is ecstatic. Dude, really? Just 6? Now that's what I call cheaping out. He profusely thanks his guardian, but the aunt tells him there is no need to be so polite. According to her, she has always thought of these 2 as her own children since she doesn't have any of her own. All of a sudden, the uncle chimes in as well. He claims that they both have been discussing about adopting the Fang twins into their family officially and asks Fang Zheng if he would be willing to do so. Hearing this, Zheng is left deeply touched. All his life, he has always wanted a real family and he cannot think of anything that could make him happier. Are you sure? Weren't they the same people who treated you like trash until just recently? Well, your call. But his guardians still have a trick up their sleeve. Now that Zheng is officially their son, shouldn't you stop calling us aunt and uncle? They question. Hearing these beautiful words, tears begin pouring down Zheng's face, and he bows in front of his new parents with extreme gratitude. And so, the uncle then turns his attention toward Fang Yuan. However, he stays the same old, standing there quietly with an indifferent expression on his face. As such, the uncle claims it is alright even if he doesn't want to. Now that Yuan is 15 years old, he is now an adult and hence, he also has the option of becoming independent and starting his own family bloodline. If he chooses this, they have already prepared 200 spiritual stones for him, but Yuan immediately refuses this offer. Yuan simply picks up his 6 spiritual stones, along with the wine jugs he bought, and leaves. Of course, this leaves Zheng speechless. Consequently, he claims his brother is not thinking clearly, asking his new dad to allow some time for him to persuade his brother. All the while, the uncle watches back at Yuan with contempt in his eyes, and the reason for this is revealed later that night when the aunt and uncle meet up in secret to discuss their plans. They curse at Fang Yuan, deeming him hard to deal with. As it turns out, this twisted guardian pair wanted to steal a Fang twins' family inheritance if he had just accepted to be adopted. Alas, Yuan is a smart brat and he didn't fall for their schemes, although they did manage to get Fang Zheng on their side. And isn't that good enough? As far as anyone knows, Fang Yuan is but a mere third-class talent, but still, his brain is a force to be reckoned with. Nonetheless, the uncle has a simple solution for all of their problems. The children will get their inheritance once they become 16. As such, if they can just get him expelled from the clan before he comes of age, then naturally, he will lose the right to inherit his parents' fortune. In his mind, he had already given Yuan a chance, claiming he could not blame them now for being heartless. On the other hand, back in the forest, Yuan is heading to his usual drinking spot, thinking about how his guardians must be planning to kick him out of the clan. He has already gone through all of this in his previous life already. The last time, he ended up falling for their antics and got robbed blind of his inheritance. Because of this, it took him a whole 2 years to reach a peak stage, but now, he knows better. He, who has no mentor nor an outstanding aptitude, must rely on this inheritance to get past the first cultivation stages. I won't make the same mistakes again in this life, he vows. Now then, his main goal for now is to locate the flower wine monk's liquor worm. Consequently, he begins drinking the night away, commenting on how the wind tonight is not as chilly. I guess you can drink the pain away after all. Meanwhile, back at the house, Fang Zheng is diligently working on the assignment given to them by the teachers. He wants to make his new mother and father proud by getting first place in this assignment. Suddenly, when he is scribbling away, he hears a knock on the door. From outside, a voice calls out to him, telling the young master to take a bath since the hot water has been prepared. Hearing this, Zheng finds the voice to be all too familiar and begins blushing. He tells his servant to come in, and Gu Yue walks in with a seductive look on her face. Seeing this, Zheng is left red as a beet. It's time for our boy to finally become a man. With this, 3 days go by and Fang Yuan keeps on refining his moonlight goo. However, despite giving it his all for half an hour, as well as almost using up his entire primeval essence, he is still only able to refine the goo at an extremely slow rate. At this pace, there is no hope for him to win first place in the assignment and get his hands on that fat reward. Suddenly, it stops raining and Yuan hears a knock on his door. From outside, he hears Gu Yue's voice. She reveals that she has brought some food and wine for Yuan, suggesting he eat and drink to ease away the troubles aching him and the depressing atmosphere. Nevertheless, Yuan was expecting something coming his way. He calmly tells Gu Yue to enter and she walks into the room, wearing skimpy clothes and exposing her body. Her racy appearance would leave anyone excited, but our hero remains indifferent. Now that's what you call Chad. But that doesn't stop him from stealing a few glances at her. No, Yuan, why have you betrayed me? There, Gu Yue reveals that tonight, she wants to share a drink with Yuan. Slowly, she gets closer to him and sits on his lap. Leaning into his ear, she announces that she is always like Yuan. No matter what kind of talent he has, she wants to stay with him and serve him forever. Not only that, but tonight, she planned on giving her body to him. Consequently, she pours a glass of wine and drinks it all. "Young master, let me feed you some wine," she proclaims. Things are getting steamy. Someone opens a window or something. As a result, she goes in for a kiss, trying to feed Yuan the wine mouth to mouth. But despite all her efforts, Yuan remains the same old. He refuses to get trapped in Gu Yue's antics and finally comes to a realization. So it's just a booby trap, he questions. Hearing these words, Gu Yue is left distressed but tries to dismiss it. Nonetheless, Yuan already knows what's going on. He suddenly grabs Gu Yue by the neck. To him, it is evident his uncle and aunt told Gu Yue to seduce him, meaning there must be someone hidden somewhere to witness the show. He questions if she planned to seduce him with the lump of fat on her chest, digging his fingers further and further into her neck. This all leaves Gu Yue unable to breathe, and she begins shrieking in pain. Seeing this, Yuan lets go of her, causing her to fall onto the ground. There, with a sinister expression, "Did you really think that I wouldn't kill you?" he asks. Upon hearing these words, Gu Yue is left fearing for her very life, but Yuan decides to spare her for now, considering the fact she has served him for many years. However, he now knows Gu Yue wants to get out of her position as a servant and tells her to go after his brother, especially since he is so naive and silly. And so, he orders Gu Yue to leave, and she walks out with tears still running down her face. Outside, both the uncle and aunt are there, surprised that their plan didn't work. Back in the room, Yuan compliments his guardian's creativity. "Come on, dude, anyone could have come up with that." Regardless, it looks like he can no longer stay at home anymore and decides to go out. As such, he heads over to a nearby inn, but the innkeeper is hesitant to give him a room. He announces that their rooms are really cheap, and judging by Yuan's clothes, it doesn't look like he will be able to afford them. However, Yuan lays down his newly acquired funds, placing 2 of the spiritual stones on the desk. "Enough," he questions. "Look at our boy," flexing the spiritual stones he got from his aunt. And in response, the innkeeper replies, "This is more than enough." He apologizes for his inconsiderate words earlier, asking forgiveness if he offended him. Nonetheless, now that he has gotten paid, he orders one of the maids to go and prepare the room. On the other hand, Yuan decides to have some food and heads over to the restaurant for a meal. There, as he gets served, he thinks about how low on cash he really is. He only has 4 stones left, but it will take about 7 to 8 to refine his moonlight goo. Then I guess you shouldn't have wasted 2 of them on an inn. What's more, even after that, he will have that liquor worm to refine, and he is far from having enough resources to accomplish his goals. Apparently, 1 spiritual stone is equivalent to a month's worth of living expenses for a normal household, and it takes at least 20 of them to refine the liquor worm. Moreover, based on his current strategy, he can only hope to stumble upon the flower wine monk's inheritance. Also, he has been trying for a week already to attract the liquor worm, but nothing seems to be going right. Just why isn't it working? He wonders. All the while, there is another group sitting beside Feng Yuan, a group who is celebrating a warrior named Feng. As it turns out, Feng took down a black-skinned wild boar all by himself, a big accomplishment. As a result, his friends want to get him drunk in celebration, but Feng is just about done with the wine. However, hearing this, his friends are skeptical. They think Feng just doesn't like the wine they serve in this place and decide to bring out the expensive stuff. They order the waiter to bring out the best-tasting wine in their entire store. Once again, the money-hungry innkeeper swings by, revealing his best wine is pretty expensive. But his words slice deeply into the group's hearts. To them, it sounds like the innkeeper is looking down on them, thinking they must be poor, but that is far from the case. He just wants to inform the men that a good wine jug costs a whopping 2 spiritual stones. And no matter how rich the warriors are, they obviously cannot afford this. They are just a bunch of brookies. They think the innkeeper must be lying. I mean, who would drink such an expensive wine? As such, Feng once again suggests they call it a night and come back again to drink at a later date. All of a sudden, a man in the restaurant bursts out laughing. Ha, how funny. He tells the warriors that if they cannot afford to drink, they should just sit down. Hearing these words, the warrior groups get provoked. Angrily, they ask what this brat just said, but imposingly, the man slowly gets up, asking, "Must I repeat myself?" There, on the man's belt, the group sees the symbol of a rank 1 Gu Master. Seeing this symbol, the men immediately grovel to the ground and begin apologizing. They claim they didn't mean to offend the master, and they just got a bit too drunk. As such, the Gu Master tells the waiter to bring over the jug of wine and begins indulging in its superior aroma. Apparently, this is the green bamboo wine, and throughout the entire mountain, only this inn would carry such a high-quality drink. Seeing that the master has taken a liking to the wine, one of the warriors decides to offer it to him, of course on his behalf. However, the Gu Master doesn't take too kindly to this offer. He begins pouring this expensive wine on the man's bald head. He announces that hunters are even richer than him. Here he was, trying to rack his brains over spiritual stones, yet these mere hunters were trying to flex their wealth in front of him. Enraged, he throws the jar at his head, calling, "You mortals aren't worthy." But even after so much disrespect, the men do not dare argue with the master. They just go into Dagiza, begging for their lives to be spared. All of a sudden, the Gu Master, who is revealed to be named Ji Yangya, gets stopped by his partner. She claims these men have already learned their lesson, and it isn't good to embarrass them any further. In addition, if rumors get out about Ji Yangya mocking and ridiculing the weaker, she would feel embarrassed for him. As such, Ji Yangya decides to stop here for now, although not that easily. Still pissed off, he announces that no one else will continue to drink his green bamboo wine, wanting to see if there is someone who would dare oppose him and drink the wine. But little does he know, he is under the same roof as a troublemaker. Out of nowhere, he hears a voice telling the waiter to bring out the green bamboo wine for him, leaving the Gu Master further infuriated. And as he looks back to see who this bossy guy is, he finds none other than Feng Yuan standing there. Recognizing him as another Gu Master, the rank 1 master understands this is the reason this child is not afraid of him. Despite this, as a fellow junior, Yuan is allowed to do as he pleases since his restrictions don't apply to other masters. With this, Feng Yuan takes his bamboo wine and decides to head out for a bit, telling the innkeeper he will be back later tonight. With this, he then heads into the forest and continues his plan. Today happens to be the best of circumstances. The air is always fresh after rain, and this expensive wine's aroma should spread far and wide. In addition, this is the only place on the mountain he hasn't come to yet. As he pours down this wine on the ground, he thinks about how he is on his last legs. All he has is 2 stones, And if he cannot find the flower wine monk's inheritance by tonight, things will get problematic. Tonight will be my final gamble, he proclaims. Alas, all his efforts appear to be futile. As the hours pass by, he stands there silently, waiting for the worm to show itself, but it never does. He has failed yet again, and now it is time for him to give up for good. If he continues, he won't even have enough stones to refine his moonlight goo. Such is the helplessness of life, but is also the charm of living. All of a sudden, the sky clears up, leading to the bright moon illuminating the nearby mountainside. Seeing this as a sign, Yuan decides to look back at his project one last time, and voila, he finds what he was looking for. In the distance, he sees the liquor worm, and goddamn is it cute. What's more, it looks to be drunk as well. Finally, Fang Yuan will be able to follow the worm and find the flower wine monk. With this, he begins chasing after the liquor worm with all of his might until he eventually reaches the entrance of the underground cave. Just like in the stories, without a moment of hesitation, he jumps into the cave and begins walking in further until he stumbles on something. I have finally found you, he announces, finally glimpsing at the skeleton of the flower wine demon. Wanting to get things over with, he decides to quickly grab the liquor worm and the inheritance left behind and leans in closer. However, as soon as he does so, he hears a creepy voice from behind. Try moving at all, challenges the voice. On the other hand, hearing these words, the indifferent Yuan is left distressed, almost as if he has soiled his pants. Standing there, deep inside the cave, he immediately suspects that he is being followed by someone, thinking it might be the warriors or the Gu master from the inn earlier. This leaves him in a desperate situation since he cannot fight and win against anyone at this moment in time. He is far too weak, but the voice doesn't stop there. It announces that it has already poisoned Yuan with its single poison dark goo, and if he doesn't cure Yuan, he is sure to become a pile of pus and blood within 7 days. This leaves Yuan in a pickle, and, in response, he is more than willing to hand over the liquor goo to this man. But, all of a sudden, he hears yet another voice. This voice begs for forgiveness from the flower wine monk, and all of this leaves Fang Yuan perplexed. At last, he turns back to see who these voices belong to and learns that it's a projection of the fated day the Gu Yue's 4th generation leader and the flower wine monk fought. However, contrary to what he was always told by the clan elders, it looks like the Gu Yue clan leader is having a bad time. He appears to be groveling on the floor, asking for mercy, whereas the flower wine monk just insults him. The monk thought the Gu Yue clan's hero was supposed to be a great man who reached the 5th rank of Gu mastery at a very early age, but it looks like he was wrong. All the while, the rest of the Gu Yue clan watches from the sidelines, witnessing their beloved leader on all fours. Nevertheless, the Gu Yue clan leader just keeps on begging the opponent to spare his life. There, the real story is finally revealed. As it turns out, the Demon Clan and the Gu Yue clan were planning on doing business together, but the Gu Yue clan poisoned the flower monk's wine. As per the monk, the Gu Yue clan only wanted to use his head to raise the clan's reputation and fame. Consequently, the Gu Yue leader only has himself to blame for this misfortune. But the Gu Yue clan leader isn't letting up. He asks for mercy and claims he will give the flower wine monk all the spiritual stones in his clan if he lets him live. In addition, he even promises to take on the flower monk's enslavement Gu and work the rest of his life as his dog's servant, fulfilling all his commands. However, as per the monk, an enslavement Gu is pretty rare as it is, not even considering one strong enough to constrain a rank 5 master. Nevertheless, he has already poisoned the Gu Yue clan leader and hence isn't afraid of any retaliation from their side. As a result, the flower wine monk allows the leader to live yet another day. However, in exchange for his life, the leader is ordered to provide 3,000 spiritual stones and 3,000 stalks of moon orchids each week. Hearing this, the Gu Yue leader happily accepts these terms, profusely thanking the monk for sparing his life. Seeing such a pathetic display, the flower wine monk is left disgusted by the so-called genius of the Gu Yue clan. He hates this type of weak men the most and tells the Gu Yue leader to serve him well or else. All of a sudden, at that moment, he feels an intense pain in his stomach and he kicks his foe in the face, sending him flying. In a short span of time where he was groveling at the ground, the Gu Yue leader was able to utilize his last, most well-hidden technique, the Moon Shadow Gu, and inflicted damage onto his opponent. This technique has the ability to restrict one's ability to use their primeval C, and now, both of them are on equal footing. Suddenly, the elder begins acting arrogant and cocky, telling the flower wine monk to surrender or else he will be the one losing his life. Of course, the flower wine monk doesn't take too kindly to threats and despite sustaining heavy damage, strikes back, killing the Gu Yue clan leader in one strike. Alas, witnessing their leader collapse to the ground, the rest of the Gu Yue clan members decide to get in on the action by avenging their clan leader, especially since the situation is in their favor. They have the number advantage and, as of right now, Flower Wine Monk is poisoned so he can't do much. As a result, all the members rush him together, leaving the Flower Monk with no other choice than to find a good opportunity to flee the scene, vowing to come back and take care of the rest later. Back in the present, Yuan realizes that this is the truth of that day. His clan leader and leader have changed the entire story. What's more, he understands this to be the reason why the heartbroken Gu Master didn't usurp the Flower Wine Monk's inheritance. If the clan finds this projection, they will definitely erase it. But how could a Gu Master, who risked his life to find this inheritance, just let others have it? Fang Yuan couldn't really care less about the projection. After all, his motto is no risk, no gain. So how could he forfeit such a treasure? With this, he begins rummaging through the Flower Wine Monk's corpse until he finally finds what he is looking for.